Thank you, Mr Deputy President. Well, I feel like this could be the Clayton's valedictory. So welcome to the Just In Case valedictory Volume 2. Last night, I recognised some of the people who have played such a vital role over the past 6 years. And I know there's plenty missing, so I do hope that we come back after the election so I can deliver a real one. But I did want to cover off some of the issues that have shaped my time in this place. I'm reluctant to start with autism, as I could be here for the entire 10 minutes and more, but I do want to say that one of my proudest achievements in this place was the Senate Select Committee I chaired that covered autism. Whole of life, not just early intervention and childhood, and not just the vocal late in life diagnosed. We looked at profound autism that affects every day, every aspect of life, not just the glossy rubbish of autism is a superpower. Sometimes autism is hard, really hard. It's hard for the autistic person, their family and their community. It's access to the health system, the education system, employment, interactions with the justice system, mental health issues dismissed as just part of the autism. Our first recommendation was the establishment of a national autism strategy. It's happened, even if it took 2 years for this government to produce a reasonably poor summation of the 81 recommendations that my committee made. It now has some funding to be rolled out. Not being part of the government, I would have hoped this would have been an area where bipartisan consultation would have occurred, but alas, I am in the dark as the rest of the community as to what this actually looks like. To all the families who had children diagnosed with classical autism, profound autism, those before the new, quite frankly, stupid DSM-5, that bundles our kids in with children experiencing minor developmental delays, I see you. And whilst I'll no longer be in this place to fight for our kids, know that whilst I continue my son's journey, along with my wonderful friend Nicole Rogerson, the total rock star who started Autism Awareness Australia, the epitome of the autism mum, we will still fight for all our kids. So those who try and make decisions that hurt our kids and our families, you can very much take this as a warning. I spoke yesterday, and I have on many occasions have spoken about the NDIS. And again, I could go on for days. But I beg of you in this place and the other, please put your big boy and big girl pants on and make the tough decisions needed to make this sustainable. Make the big reforms. Cut the numbers through ensuring this scheme is fit for purpose. If 1 in 37 people in this country have a significant permanent and lifelong disability, we are in for a world of pain. Get the numbers back down. Define permanent, significant and lifelong. Provide other lifeboats for families needing some early intervention. Embrace the insurance part of the scheme. Invest early to see improved life outcomes. Don't punish families who use supports correctly, who reach goals, but are petrified to share their successes because they know that they'll be punished, while those who waste funds are rewarded for not using them appropriately. Use data properly for every participant, especially early intervention, but in working towards goals. We hear about provider registration. It's about process at the moment, not quality. Some of the highest quality providers are sole providers who work closest with families. Introduce a scalable registration process in line with business size, number of participants or volume of billing. Remove some of the excess levels within and outside the agency. Stop the bureaucracy from dominating and focus on funding supports. Stop the insane external legal bills to not only fight but break participants and their families. Overwhelmingly, to only then give them what they originally wanted on the steps of the tribunal. I will stay on this from outside of this place, but I am not filled with confidence that the third largest item in the budget will get the attention it deserves, because unfortunately it's not seen as sexy or as important as focusing your career here on defence or finance. Somehow or other, along this crazy journey, I became a bit of a vaping queen. It's still beyond me that this policy stupidity of banning vapes continues. Tax it, regulate it. We have the model with cigarettes and alcohol. Instead, we see firebombing of stores, organised crime. We see it more lucrative for criminal networks to bring in containers of illicit tobacco and vapes than heroin, much less threat of punishment or penalty. Moral policing has led to policy insanity, with ministers led by the nose by an overzealous health department who rely on the so-called research of discredited and biased so-called academics. I do hope the new policy of a Dutton government will see the end of the criminalisation of smoking cessation, but we are certainly not seeing that from this government. I have also had the privilege to work in the mental health portfolio, and whilst I could talk about prevention and early intervention, I really want to say to the families of loved ones experiencing serious mental illness, the system is letting you down. And whilst it's true that many of these people are more likely to be victims of crime, I also want to acknowledge the pain of the families left behind when their loved ones become victims of those with mental illness. As many of you are aware, my dearest friend Julie Singleton had her daughter murdered at Bondi Junction last year. It will never be over for Julie or for Dorney's siblings. Yet the mental health system has let them down, and we now face the prospect of a coronial inquiry seemingly intent on releasing publicly the footage of what occurred. This is not in the public interest. This is not to benefit the families who lost loved ones. It is insulting to those who lost their lives. It is insulting to those who were there, some of who were attacked and survived, who've decided to remain anonymous, and they could then lose that anonymity. This is trauma porn. And whilst it's a state government issue, we need to show leadership here. Attorneys General need to unify and stop this further traumatisation of families, just so the evening news has shock value footage. And I would like to say that I hope none of you or your families ever experience this kind of pain. I hope, and I wasn't really going to make much of a personal comment here, but I experienced from people who run against me for pre-selection and their supporters, using against me my lack of a direct phone call to them in the weeks following this tragedy, whilst I worked to support my friend. To you and all of you that did that, you are a disgrace, have disgraced yourselves, and to those grubs, I hope it was worth it for you. I'd also like to look at anti-Semitism and the total lack of leadership that we're seeing from this government. I'd like to pay tribute to the strength of the Australian Jewish community, the incredible work exposing so much of this by my friend Shari Markson. You're an absolute legend, Shah. I got to see my friend Amir Maimon today, the Israeli ambassador, and to you I say, you have many friends who will always stand with Israel, who will always stand with our Jewish friends. We have the most incredible Australian Jews. And I must acknowledge Solomon Lew, who has perhaps given me the most profound of advice as I've prepared for my departure from this place. Sometimes second prize is actually first prize. So you are so right. I look forward to many more dinners as I navigate my next steps, but I know that the support I have received from the Jewish community I will pay back tenfold even after my departure. To Joel Burney, Colin Rubenstein, Tammy Resnick, I was always a Zionist, but you showed me Israel, and it will be an experience I will always treasure and hope to return to very, very soon. I know yesterday we did NDIS Monday on Tuesday, and we've seen the demise of Transmission Tuesday. I hope that we see, whatever in the next term of government, some openness, some honesty with what the true cost of the race to renewables is for every Australian, for the damage that it is doing to our rural and regional communities who are forced to bear the brunt of much of this infrastructure. And one of the most interesting inquiries, just to finish on, that I have had the pleasure of recently participating in was one initiated by the Greens on menopause and perimenopause. So all to the women of my age, have a look at it. I know Senator Waters was disappointed as she wanted to see menopause leave supported, which it was not by anyone except the unions, but it has highlighted the need for us to all talk about perimenopause and menopause, to acknowledge that 50% of the population are going to go through this, that the symptoms are complex, that there is support for women that's required, because women at 50 and above, or sometimes a little earlier as we know, but they are quite often at their most productive. Their children are grown, their careers have much experience, and it is the time that we should be supporting women. And I have embraced that in my last final few months in this place, because every now and then the temperature in here is just really unbearable. And so I very, very often now will just remove my jacket as a little bit of an acknowledgement that we do need to be more open and accessible to all.